Hi, everyone. Welcome. Sports and shorts of sorts. I'm Ren City. Let's start this. Episode 26. Probably the best player in sports to rock the number 26. Baseball Hall of Famer Wade Boggs. Mostly known for his time in Boston, Boggs is one of those guys who played for the Red Sox and their hated rivals, the Yankees, winning his only World Series with the latter in '96 over the Braves. But man, Boggs was a dynamite hitter, winning the AL batting title on 5 different occasions. He finished his career with a 328 hitting average and is a member of the elusive 3,000 hit club. Only 33 members. Man, he's an 8-time Silver Slug Award winner, two Gold Gloves to go with him. His 26 is retired by the Red Sox, and for some reason Tampa Bay retired his number 12 that he only wore his 2 final seasons with the club. I mean, I guess he did get his 3,000th hit while playing with them, and they were a newer franchise, but still, yeah, and interesting to each their own. He was a good player, deserving it, but big Simpsons fans like me probably remember Wade Boggs being recruited to the company's softball game at the nuclear power plant. And of course, we know he gets knocked out by Barney at the bar at Moe's Bar when they're arguing over who's England's greatest prime minister. Boggs says Pitt the Elder. Barney said Lord Palmerston. You know, classic bar talk. But another baseballer I'll mention, Chase Utley, most known for his time in Philadelphia, where he won the 2008 World Series, made 6 All-Star games, 4 Silver Sluggers along the way. And one of his coolest feats appearing in that Always Sunny in Philadelphia episode. That's a pretty good one. Ryan Howard's in it as well. And first number 26, I think, of football, is one of the best cornerbacks to play in the NFL. Talking about Woodson. Holds the record for most career interceptions returned for a touchdown with 12, so that's pretty dope. And not only was he an amazing football player at Purdue, but he was a get this, track and field athlete, finishing second in the '85 NCAA championships in the 55 meters and third in the '87 championship for the same event. Like, he used that speed and his ball hawking ability to become a Hall of Famer in college and the pros. 11-time Pro Bowler, 6-time All Pro, third time second team All Pro, one Defensive Player of the Year in '93, only done by 5 other cornerbacks. They don't usually get that award. So, yeah, he sits third all time on the career interceptions list. He won one Super Bowl with that historically dominant Baltimore Ravens defense. But yeah, other 26s I think of are mostly running backs. Clinton Portis, with Washington and Denver, racked up tons of yards. Le'Veon Bell wore it most of his career. Most remember him for his holdout with the Steelers. Kind of what Saquon went through a bit before he accepted his deal. But two random ones I just thought of from my childhood that just popped in. They're probably from playing Madden '99 or something. But Napoleon Kaufman of the Raiders and Robert Smith, Minnesota Vikings. Just, they say guys can just get around and women too, and just blurt out random athletes from back in the day, and it just starts like a conversation of nostalgia, and it's straight up true. Just as those names popped up, and you bring them up to someone, and they go, "Oh yeah, I remember him," and it's good times. But the NBA, nothing was really coming to me other than Kyle Korver. He's a dynamite 3-point shooter. He did make one All-Star game when the entire Atlanta Hawks team made it that one year in 2015, but yeah, good for Kyle Korver. Nothing else really came to me. One in hockey came to me though. Martin St. Louis, right? Tiny dude, but hell of a player. He won the cup in 2004. He was 2-time Art Ross winner, 3-time Lady Bing winner, and he won the Lester B. Pearson and the Hart Trophy in 2004. Pretty good year for him. Pound for pound, he's got to be one of the best. Such a little dude, but lit it up. And another big name, Peter Stastny, second highest goal scorer in the '80s behind Gretzky. I didn't know that, but that stat alone is pretty intense. 6-time All-Star, won Rookie of the Year, the Calder Trophy. His son's pretty good too, Paul Stastny. And my last 26 in hockey, Patrick Elias, another random name that just comes up. Czech superstar, followed the path that Stastny set for him. Longtime New Jersey Devil, won 2 Stanley Cups with the team, made 4 All-Star games. He's franchise leader with points, goals, assists, playoff points, game-winning goals, overtime goals, hat tricks, and shots on goals. So he has a few records with the Devils. But yeah, and he's random fun fact. I thought this was kind of cool when I was looking up Elias stats. He's the only player to be awarded 2 penalty shots in an overtime. Both occurred in separate games, both against the Islanders, and in both cases he missed the shot. So kind of a random fact there about Patrick Elias. But yeah, not a lot of players have done that because he's the only one. But jumping right into the Wild Sports Week. I know the NBA's still not here yet, but man, there's been some good basketball going on. The FIBA World Cup has been going on in Southeast Asia, and it's been good. Like the group stage is wrapped up, and I thought we were jumping into the second round, but it was a little confusing. I had to do a little investigating, and basically what it worked out to was the top 2 teams of each group from round one, the first group play, they advanced to play the top 2 teams from another group. And those top 2 teams from each group make a new super group. And the top 2 teams from the new said super group advance to the quarterfinals. And while all that's going on, those bottom teams that didn't advance to the super group stage, they play each other to determine the rankings in which teams will qualify for the Olympics. I know, stay with me. And Friday, there was tons of shit that went down. More shock than a bathtub toaster. Like, Italy gave Serbia their first loss of the tournament. Puerto Rico gave Dominican their only loss of the tournament at the time. That messed up their group, had everyone 3-1, made those winter home games, which we all loved. Latvia gave Spain their first defeat. Brazil bullied Canada. I did not see that happening. They just, yeah, straight up bullied them on the glass. They were physical. They weren't letting them do anything. Americans, there was a tight game against Montenegro, which was closer than I thought. Lithuania beat up on Greece. Germany beat down on Georgia. Slovenia knocked out Australia with their win. And that was like some of the worst flopping I've seen in hoops. It was ridiculous. Luka was leading the way. His whole team was flopping. It was wild, but I do like the FIBA officials calling people out for flopping and teeing them up. Oh, I wish they'd do that in the NBA. Everyone's like, what? I'm getting technical for this? It's like, dude, you're flopping all over the place. Yeah. I mean, some of the calls are a little whack, but hey, give and take. That's what you get, international hoops. But after those wild Friday games, we had Sunday games that determined our quarterfinals. We're here now. We're in the knockout quarterfinal stages. And what a way to get here. Canada, they looked like they were in trouble against Spain. And it was a must-win. Win or go home. And it was a nail-biter. Dylan Brooks, everyone's casting him out saying he's a villain. He came up clutch. He was hitting big threes, excellent defense, but the most clutchest of them all, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. Wow, crossing people up, hitting clutch free throws. He's like a 90% free throw shooter. He's the guy you want at the line. He was the guy at the line. He's the guy that got us the win. Canada, I had to put on the RJ Barrett jersey. I don't have a Canada one, but I mean, RJ got fouled out and we played better. But hey, whatever is the only jersey I got affiliated with this. But big win, slow pump by Canada getting to the quarterfinals. That puts them in the Olympics, but we'll get more on that later. But wow, Canada will take on Slovenia in the quarterfinals. They had already clinched their spot when they were going against Germany, so both teams were they're already going on to the next round. It was just going to be determined who played whom. And Germany, they went down early. Slovenia were talking shit. Luka was chatting and everybody waving. But man, Germany came back hard and they ended up beating them pretty good. So Slovenia is matched up with Canada in the corners. Germans will take on Latvia. Latvia faced that Brazilian team that bullied Canada, and Latvia just beat down on them. It wasn't close. So it's a game of matchups in this tournament. At least Canada doesn't have to play Brazil again because they're gone. So Germany will take on Latvia. Excuse me. And probably the biggest shock of the day, though, was the Lithuanian team remaining undefeated as they stuck it to the Americans. They came out on fire. They were rebounding. They hit like their first 8 or 9 threes. They couldn't miss for three. Like when you start like that, It was an uphill battle all game for the Americans, and they did come back. They tried to make it interesting, but Lithuania kept them at bay. They were chatting shit to each other. The one Lithuania guy's chatting shit to Austin Reeves, and then everyone's coming out. Oh, they wouldn't talk this to our players. It's like, man, take the L. And the guy was saying he was Austin Reeves' brother's teammate, and he called Austin Reeves' brother to be like, "Hey, any advice?" And he's like, "Yeah, chat shit to my brother." So I don't know. Just let them play. Everyone's got to make a big deal of shit. Lithuania went in and they beat the Americans. You know what, though? Both teams were advancing before the game, so they're moved on. So we'll see if the Americans lose their next game. Then I think we're in big shit. But Canada lost the game and they came back and won. So there's lots to go on here. But the Americans will take on Italy, who had beaten Puerto Rico to advance, while Lithuania will take on Serbia. Serbia blew out Dominican Republic. It was not very good. Dominican Republic looked really good in group stage, but the last two games were just yikes. But this tournament is just showing you anything can happen. So I obviously want Canada to win it, but I think any of the 8 remaining teams have a punching shot. Some more than the others. I think the Americans should still be the favorite. But Lithuania, they're just showing you they can beat them, and why can't they be the favorite? So, I'm excited. Love this. Basketball in September. Where are we? Loving it, though. But those quarterfinals start Tuesday, September 5th. And not everyone can win the World Cup, but like I said, everyone can. So a lot of teams can still qualify for the Olympics. And we've had some teams qualify. Australia. Japan is making it after a huge run. South Sudan, their whole story with former player Luol Deng heading this thing, and his coach is Royal Ivy, who he was another former NBA player. But what they're doing for South Sudan is amazing. They say when they win, it stops violence in the country. Like when they're playing basketball, people's eyes are on that. It's just a better place, which is sometimes sports can be good for everyone. But anyway, the teams qualifying: Australia, South Sudan, who I mentioned, Japan, USA, and Canada. We going back. And first time Canada will be playing men's basketball in the Olympics since 2000. Down under with Steve Nash in Australia playing with RJ Baird's dad, Rowan Sr., I guess. But there's still 2 European spots up for grabs. The top 2 in this tournament will get them, and then the rest have to qualify for another route, which is a shitty route you don't want to be involved with. So either of those 2 spots will go to Lithuania, Serbia, Italy, Germany, Latvia, or Slovenia. 2 of them will get them. The other ones will have to go through that other tournament to make the Olympics. But exciting. We'll see what happens this week. I look forward to seeing it. The time difference has been tough. Like I said, the games, I think the final games, the quarterfinals, semis, and finals will be in Manila. So again, it's a pretty wild time difference, but woo! The MLB, we had a very big week for the Blue Jays, hoping to keep their playoff dreams alive, and it was some interleague play, so see how they would hold up against the National League. They'd take on the Nationals first, and yeah, some balanced scoring, reliable pitching, got them the first game 6-3. Second game, the Nats got to Barrios early, and the Jays tried to come back, but they came up short, losing 5-4. Then the Jays look like a different team in the rubber match. The Blue Jays they'd get to Patrick Corbin early, who hasn't played in Toronto in a while, but they made it a rough day for him. He probably doesn't want to come back. Again, more balance hitting. RBIs going Davis Schneider's way, who continues to look great. Combined with Chris Bassett going 8 strong, giving up 3. The Jays won 7-0. They took 2 out of 3 against the Nats, which, probably hope for better. But then they go to the Rockies to take on the Rockies, and we knew scoring would be up in Coors Field. It's home run hitting park, and both teams went yard a few times, and the scoring was plenty. The Jays had a big lead, almost let it get away, but they'd win the opener 13-9, and they looked good in the second game, going up 5-0. But like we're saying, there's no lead is safe at Coors Field, and the struggling Rockies came back and never looked back. The Jays tried to come back, but 8-7 was that. And then we'd have another rubber match to see who would take a series. And this one was a dandy. We had a brief rain delay. And before the rain came, Spencer Horwitz got his first MLB home run for the Blue Jays. Congrats to him. And then once the game came back from the rain, back and forth. We had a tie game going in the 9th inning. And then Merrifield and Clement each got an RBI single. Jordan Romano goes in, gets the same. Bob's your uncle. Jays victory 7-5. Another series win, a 2-1 win. 4 out of 6, it sounds pretty good, but you got to think those are two series they could have probably swept, right? If a few things went differently, but yeah, the Jays matchup this upcoming week looks pretty favorable. We're going out west, take on the Oakland Athletics, who basement dwellers of the AL West. I mean, they did just sweep the Angels, but is that saying much right now? It seems like they've got White Flag City waving. I don't know what's going on there. But after that, they go back home to take on the AL Central basement dwellers, the Kansas City Royals. So these are both series that are good to be swept, but a lot of times, you forget to sweep and shit doesn't always work out. So we'll see what happens. This is a big week for them though. And like we're entering the last month of the baseball season, so we're even watching the postseason more. The Orioles are still leading the AL East, 2.5 game lead over the Rays. Minnesota Twins are the only team still above 500 in the AL Central. Out west, the AL West is an absolute shit show. You got the Mariners, who have been hot prior to losing 2-3 against the Mets in New York, but they're still leading the AL West now after they've stormed up there. The Rangers and Astros are both just one game back. And their week is coming up, and it's looking crazy because those two Texas rivals have a 3-game series, and obviously huge playoff implications on the line. And even in the wild card, because Tampa Bay has the one spot, and the Astros and Rangers, they have the other spot. So the Jays are only 1.5 games behind those teams, the Astros and the Rangers. So if the Jays can handle their shit this week, and if one of those Texas teams can sweep the other, the Jays can just slide right into that spot, hopefully. By the time the next episode airs, hopefully I'm saying the Jays got a wild card spot. But you know what? Anything can happen. That's why we play the game. The National League divisions are pretty one-sided, though. The Braves are still way ahead in the NL East. Like, they just won 3 out of 4 against the Dodgers, showing how good they are, flexing on the league. And like the Dodgers dropped 3 or 4 against Atlanta, and they're still miles ahead in the NL West. The Brewers, they lead the Central, but the Reds dropped off a bit, but the Cubs are still involved. They're 3.5 games back. They could still take the division. And the NL wild card is super tight. Like a lot of teams involved. You have the Phillies and Cubs for the 2 spots, and that third spot is shared by the Diamondbacks, Marlins, Giants, and Reds. So they're all vying for that last spot, and we've got a month to go. So let's see what up. Suit up and play. F1. We had some more F1. The Italian Grand Prix went down over the weekend in Monza. Before the racing started, we had news coming out of Mercedes. They announced they had signed Lewis Hamilton and George Russell to contract extensions, so that takes away any talks of who's going to be driving there next year. Terrible start for Yuki Tsunoda. He went out before the race even started on the formation lap. He had to pull off the track. Engine failure, brutal. Worst start ever. But that delayed start a little bit. They had to go like 20 minutes later than they were hoping. But once it started, it didn't take long for Max Verstappen to do his thing and get to the front of the track. 15 laps in, then he never looked back, winning his 10th in a row, breaking Vettel's record he had just tied last week at 9. And yeah, it's just so damn dominant this year. It's crazy. Everybody was like, oh, Lewis is so dominant. No, Max is taking it to another level. Obviously, he just broke a record. But his teammate, Sergio Perez, fought his way up to second near the end, give Red Bull max points. The Ferraris followed with Carlos Sainz getting them on the podium. Teammate Charles Leclerc behind him. Those newly extended Mercedes drivers, they finished George Russell 5th, Lewis 6th. And another standout drive for Williams driver Alex Albon getting 7th place. Like usually Williams isn't involved with points, but he's pretty good driver this year. I think he's doing very well. I was talking to my wife about it. I could see him if things don't work out with Checo, with Perez. I know we got second, but maybe Albon did have that brief stint with Red Bull. Maybe he can come back. I don't know. I'm thinking way ahead. Regardless, the next race will be going on September 17th for the Singapore Grand Prix. But from the track to to the footy field. We have Champions League starting right away. So, yeah, we had to have the draw. We had some qualifiers to get in there, and our draws were done. A few things that stuck out about the groups for the upcoming Champions League. There's always a group of death, and Group F, I think, is possessing that. You got PSG, French League champs, Borussia Dortmund. Wow, that was weird. Sorry. Dortmund, who finished second, and they should have won the Bundesliga, but they finished second. You got AC Milan and Newcastle. So either of those games can go either way. So I think AC Milan and Newcastle will come out of that group, but we'll see. It's a long season. And another thing that stuck out to me is Group A. Everyone's probably like, Man United and Bayern Munich have this, but don't count out Turkish League, Super League champions, Galatasaray. They had to beat Mold just to get into this tournament, but they have a talented squad. Really sick. Look at their lineup, top to bottom. I think they can do damage and surprise someone. Defending champs, Manchester City are in Group G with Leipzig. Savena Zvezda, I definitely butchered that. And Young Boys, that's still a weird name for a team, but Man City seems to have won the lottery with their draws. They should dominate that group. The baby sibling in the Champions League, the Europa League, had their draw. Not as flashy, but still a very tough European tournament. I'm hyping it up always because West Ham is in Group A. Tough matches against Olympiacos, Freiburg, and Backa Tapola. That's who's in our group. But there are some big names in this tournament. You have Ajax, Marseille, Brighton of the Premier League, Rangers, Atalanta, Liverpool, Villarreal, Roma, Bayern Leverkusen. So there's a lot of exciting footy coming up this European season in midweek footy. I could have not have said that anywhere. But let's actually jump to the field. The Premier League, great start to it. West Ham would visit Luton Town. Luton Town was hosting their first top flight game at their stadium in 31 years. Remember, they were supposed to host Burley earlier in the season, but it was postponed because the club had to upgrade their stadium up to Premier League standards. But wow, what an atmosphere. West Ham would silence the crowd when they went ahead. But Kurt Zuma would get his late in the game to make things even better for West Ham. But in the 92nd, Luton would pull one back. Not enough. West Ham secure the victory. Whoop, whoop. Everton and Sheffield United were both looking to get their first points of the season, and it really could have went either way. If it wasn't for Pickford making two massive saves at the end, it could have definitely went Sheffield United's way. But it was a 2-2 draw, a point both teams desperately needed. But yeah, tie seemed fitting for that one. Man City thumped Fulham 5-1. Another hat trick for Erling Haaland. Tim Ream had the only goal for Fulham, the Americans, so good on him. Tottenham fans were a little concerned when Burnley went up 4 minutes into the match, but they came back and won convincingly 5-2. Son had a hat trick of his own and is not missing Harry Kane, it looks like. But Nottingham Forest picked up the shocking 1-0 victory at Stamford Bridge against Chelsea. Like, Forest has been struggling to win on the road since they were promoted, and Chelsea has struggled to win at home of late, so something had to give. But man, Chelsea blew it again. All that money, and they can't beat Forest at home. Yikes. Brentford and Bournemouth went back and forth until Mbuemos got a 93rd minute to equalize. Otherwise, Brentford could have lost that one. Soboslai would get his first Liverpool goal 4 minutes into their match against Villa. That combined with a Matty Cash own goal, a Mo Salah goal, led to an easy 3-0 victory for Liverpool. Crystal Palace and Wolves would produce 5 goals, and all of them in the second half. Edouard's brace and Eze's 78th minute goal was enough to beat out goals by Hwang Hee-chan and Cunha, so Brighton pulled off a shocking result at home, beating Newcastle 3-1. Even the bigger shock was 18-year-old Irishman Evan Ferguson scoring a hat-trick. Man, what a game by him. Callum Wilson got a late stoppage time goal, but it just ruined the clean sheet, nothing else. But I can only picture Chelsea thinking how much they can overspend trying to get Ferguson from Brighton. But we'll see what happens with that. He's doing well with the club right now. And the last match of the weekend, you had Arsenal hosting Man U, always a highly anticipated match. And Rashford would put the visitors ahead for like a minute before Odegaard would equalize. And this game looked like it could go either way. Garnacho was subbed on, looked great, putting Man U ahead, but VAR came in and offside. Looked like we could have a draw, but former West Ham hammer Declan Rice came in and put Arsenal ahead in the 96th minute. And, Man U was trying. They couldn't get it. Gabriel Jesus would get a lovely goal to end it. So, yeah, top five teams in the league all won this week, so no change at the top. Manchester City is the only one to win all four of their games, going 4 for 4 on wins, and they're, sitting pretty at the top. Jumping to Germany, the Bundesliga had a pretty wild start. Borussia Dortmund looked like they had 3 points in the bag against Heidenheim, where the visitors would get two second half goals to get the draw. Another surprising result for Dortmund. Like they picked up 5 points in 3 matches, so not ideal for them who are hoping to be competing for a title again. One-sided victories kind of all over Germany. Bayern Leverkusen crushed Darmstadt 5-1. Hoffenheim beat Wolfsburg 3-2. Werder Bremen beat Mainz 4-0. Stuttgart stunned Freiburg 5-0. Leipzig beat a 10-man Union Berlin 3-0. Augsburg drew with Bochum and Frankfurt with Cologne. And Bayern Munich looked in trouble going down to Mönchengladbach in the first half, but second half goals by Leroy Sané and 87th winner by Massis Tell would be enough to give last year's champs the victory. So, yeah, Bayern. It's a Bayern battle at the top with Bayern Munich and Bayern Leverkusen, the only teams to get full points in their matches. Jumping to Spain, on a plane to Spain, Villarreal struggles continue. They went down a man and lost 3-1 to Cadiz. Real Sociedad won a thriller against Granada 5-3. Celtic Vigo picked up a late winner in the 3-2 over Almeria. A few 1-0 games as Alaves beat Valencia. Real Betis beat Rayo Vallecano, and Girona beat Las Palmas. Mallorca and Athletic Club played to 0-0. Barcelona was up 1-0 before Osasuna equalized. And then Alejandro Catino would get sent off for Osasuna for a tackle in the box. That would have Robert Lewandowski step up and convert the penalty, giving Barcelona the win. And Real Madrid looked in trouble as they had to come back against Getafe. Then the 95th minute, Jude Bellingham would score, giving Real Madrid the win. It's Jude's fifth goal in 4 games since joining the Spanish side from Dortmund. And Real Madrid lead La Liga with 4 wins and 4 to start the season. In Italy, the two Milan teams remain at the top. Inter picked up a big 4-0 win over Fiorentina. AC Milan meant to mend down, but still managed to beat Roma in the capital 2-1. Last year's champs Napoli dropped their first match of the year in a 2-1 loss to Lazio. Udinese drew 0-0 with Frosinone. Sassuolo beat Verona 3-1. Bologna beat Cagliari 2-1. Atalanta beat Monza 3-0. Torino beat Genoa 1-0. And Juventus beat Empoli 2-0. Lecce also beat Salernitana 2-0. And finishing in Europe with the Liga and the French league, there were either draws or blowouts. It seemed nothing in between. Monaco has continued their amazing start, beating Lens 3-0. Le Havre beat Lorient 3-0. Nice beat Strasbourg 2-0. And PSG spanked Lyon 4-1. Lille won a game with only 1 goal. Their 1-0 victory over Montpellier. And draws were had by everyone else. 10-man Nantes drew with Marseille. Brest and Rennes drew. Toulouse and Clermont-Foot drew. Metz and Reims drew. So, also surprising news coming out of Nice as they released former Leicester keeper Kasper Schmeichel, making him a free agent. But after 4 matches, like I said, Monaco in their surprise season, they're sitting atop the table. Coming to North American footy, more Messi magic in the MLS. He picked up 2 more assists in front of a raucous LA crowd in LAFC. The playoffs still may be attainable for Inter Miami, but the hole they had dug themselves in pre-Messi might be too much to overcome. Cincinnati still leads the East, and St. Louis still leads the West. But we have an international break coming up, so a lot of the big leagues will be stopping. The MLS will be continuing, so that means they'll lose Lionel Messi for 2 games as he plays for Argentina. So I don't know what they'll do to overcome him. He's kind of changed the whole team. But one last mention in footy, John Herdman Canadian men's national coach is yeah, he's leaving. He's jumping ship to go to Toronto FC, the MLS, effective immediately. 48-year-old. It's a pretty good resume in Canada. He was hired by the Canadian women's team in 2011, guided them to two Olympic bronze medals, joined the men's side, gone to their first World Cup since '86. But a big part of the move, it's Canada footy sustainability right now. Like, there's no stability there. The organization's been under scrutiny as late, saying we might have to file for bankruptcy, and no one knows where the federation's heading. They say there's not enough money, there's not enough money coming in. No one knows who's going to replace Herdman on the men's side, but it's got to be a tough job to walk into. I mean, the talent's there. This could be a golden generation of Canadian footy, and yeah, no money or anybody to lead them. It's kind of unfortunate, but college football's back. That's big shit talking there. But before we jump into that, there was more realignment happening. The ACC added some new schools, bringing their total up to 18. These additions will start in the 24-25 school year. Stanford and Cal joined from the Shambles, formerly known as the Pac-12. Only two teams remain in the Pac-12 now, Oregon State and Washington State. SMU leaves the AAC for the ACC, a move that hurts dyslexics as much as the conference. Inviting two Pacific teams really shakes up the entire East Coast Conference, being it is the Atlantic Coast Conference. Again, you have these West Coast teams in the Atlantic Coast Conference. It doesn't make sense, but the dollar does, and it's all about the money. But yeah, there was some actual football being played. College games were back. Degenerate gamblers raised their arms with money to bet. And yeah, there was some real good shit going on. The biggest news out of Colorado, obviously, without a doubt, all you're going to hear this week is about Deion Sanders. And yo, deservedly so. He talked the talk. He walked it. He walked it. Everyone doubted him, said he couldn't come from, historically black college university and come in and win in a Power Five school. And he did. He went in to a team that was in the championship game last year in TCU and beat them at home. Coach's son, Shatter Sanders, looked amazing. 510 yards, 4 touchdowns, three of those to Dylan Edwards. And we got to shout out Travis Hunter. Of course, the first player that looks as dynamic as Primetime, playing both sides of the ball, is being coached by Primetime. 11 catches, 119 yards. He's got an interception on defense. Like, wow, he's something to watch. Buffalo's games are exciting to watch. You would have thought University of Colorado, but it's the Deion Sanders factor right there. It's what he brings to the game. But there's the usual gimmies in week one. That's usually how teams schedule. Like Oklahoma beat Arkansas State 73-0. Oregon beat Portland State 81-7. Like, some of these scores are disgusting. They're really like pump our chest. Let's get ready for the season. Except that didn't really work out for Baylor. They scheduled Texas State. They were big favorites to take this game, but the Bobcats of Texas State had different ideas. Beating Baylor 42-31 in Baylor. Not what the coach was expecting when he scheduled that one. And then, like, our big game, two ranked teams, LSU and Florida State on Sunday. And LSU was leading at halftime, 17-14, but then the Florida State Seminoles, oh man, they came back to win 45-24. Tigers coach Brian Kelly called the game a total failure, so not a good start for the Bayou team. But sticking with college real quick, cool story coming out of Nebraska. They hosted Omaha at the Memorial Stadium in Lincoln, Nebraska, usually where they host football games. But 92,003 people came out to watch this game. Yeah, a volleyball game in a football stadium. This broke the mark that Barcelona had for a women's event at an actual the soccer match. 91,000 for that. So this broke so many women's sports records. Everyone's like, oh, no one watches women's sports. Well, there's 92,000 people that went there for that one. Monumental for the game. I didn't realize how big women's volleyball is and women's college volleyball is, but I looked into it. It's like more young women are deciding to do that over basketball, and it's super cool. I didn't realize how big of a sport it's become there. That's on me, but something to look forward to watching going forward. So awesome. And all this college football talk has got me thinking NFL now. It's coming up. I'm sure everyone's had their fantasy drafts. Everyone's tinkering with their teams already. Yahoo had the gall to give me a D- draft rating. I look forward to proving that shit wrong. I'm insulted by that, but we'll see what happens. Maybe they're right. But I I feel very strongly that I am though. But I love this time of the year. It's in the air, right? The autumn air screams football. Everyone thinks they have a chance to win. Maybe Arizona Cardinals aren't preaching playoffs, but everyone else, why not us? I'm excited to see what Jordan Love can do. The era of Jordan Love begins in Green Bay. Will his transition be as smooth as Aaron Rodgers when he came in for Brett Favre? Speaking of Rodgers, how does he look in the Big Apple, right? Will the Chiefs repeat? They have Mahomes, but that Chris Jones holdout is not looking very good. Like, he's a big deal on that defense. He's going to impact them if he's not there. And, all the new faces and new places where you're like, oh shit, I forgot he plays there. You got some good rookies coming in. Who's going to outshine? I think Zay Flowers should have a good year, especially since I have him on my fantasy teams. But man, it all starts Thursday. Kansas City Chiefs hosting the Detroit Lions. Will the Chiefs just dominate, or will the up and coming Lions, improving under Dan Campbell, show the world that they can punch the champs in the mouth and take the win? Who knows? It's week one. Anything can happen. I'm expecting the Chiefs to win, but you know, sometimes the unexpected happens. Be excited. So excited. But there is football going on right now. CFL, the Labor Day weekend here, right? So it's always a fun one in the CFL. The Lions beat the Alouettes and Montreal, but the real fun was in Regina, right? Rough Riders hosting the Blue Bombers Labor Day Classic. These teams hate each other, and this was a classic. Back and forth. Bombers come back. Riders come back. Force overtime. In overtime, the Riders scored and got the crowd rocking, only for Caleros to immediately get a bomb. And they'd have to go for two to equalize. And Caleros' throw was tipped. It's like, oh, who got that? Jackson Ford, the backup who came in after there was an injury. And he's a rookie out of University of Regina. His grandfather, Alan Ford, played and was a GM for the Riders. So cool storybook ending to a wild 32-30 win for the Riders in front of the sold-out crowd. Just awesome. The Argos and Ticats game and Elks and Stampeders will be going on Labor Day Monday, so that's something. WNBA season's almost coming to the end. We got like a week of games here, so it'll really shape the playoff picture. The Liberty and Aces met in another classic where the Liberty flexed on them. They've been hot lately at just the right time. Given the Aces their second straight loss for the first time since August of 2022. That just shows you how good the Aces have been, and they followed those losses with two victories. So I think they're still okay, but the bottom of the playoff looks, there's a little more shuffling that can go on. The Sky are on the outside looking in, but they could still catch the Sparks, Mystics, or Dream depending how people end the season. But for this episode short, we're not jumping in any time capsules. We're sticking with just like what happened this past week. What a week this was. I had my very first bout of severe tooth pain. I mean, I've been lucky to go 36 years without something like that, and I'd be happy to never go through it again. Like, I had a filling done early this year in one of my teeth near the back. The dentist said, like, you might need a root canal down the line. I'm like, okay. I didn't know how quick we'd face this line. So I guess this line came. Started hurting a bit Sunday. Monday, really bad. Tuesday, I'm like, oh. I had to keep like, I kept doing that weird breathing where I'd go over the tooth because it was like my only relief. But I'd call the appointment. I'd call the dentist, set up an appointment for Thursday because I was getting my surgically repaired knee looked at. We'll get more to that. But man, I had no idea what to do with this tooth pain. I was popping meds like a young Robert Downey Jr. I'd just pace around the house. I'd try icing my jaw. Did nothing. I'd go rinse my mouth out and I'd hit like a sweet spot, shoot extreme pain, didn't know what to do. I would just like hang my head in the kitchen sink and just I'd rinse my mouth out, I'd spit it down, I'd be like, ugh. And then I'd turn on the tap, not realizing my head's under it, splashing water on me, and I'm flailing around like a beached whale, just getting a little bit of water on me. It was not my best moment. And then Thursday finally came. I had my knee appointment first, and because my knee's been acting up since I tried to make a block in volleyball like a month ago, and it's been progressively getting worse. But just buckling, the random pain, all that sweet stuff. But not to the point where I had to get it looked at. And while I'm in the doctor, I'm just rubbing my face and doing that weird breathing thing, and because that was the only relief. And he'd ask about my knee pain. I'm like, man, honestly, I can't feel my knee. My mouth is literally taking over everything. But we had somewhat of a functional appointment where now I got an ultrasound and X-ray to go to next Friday. So we'll see what's up with the old knee. Hopefully, there's nothing too bad, but it's not feeling awesome. But anyway, from there, I'd hope go to my dental appointment because I was hoping to go to work after, but I could not work with this. And called the appointment. Like when I had booked the appointment, they had said, "Well, we want to start you on antibiotics before you come in." So I was on antibiotics going in, and they saw right away the pain I was in. I was back. They gave me a needle right away for numbing. Gave me a prescription for T3s, and he's like, "Hold on, let me talk to a colleague because they're gonna get me in Friday with another doctor because my dentist doesn't work Fridays." But anyway, he'd get talk to his colleague, and he's like, "We can get you in 3 this afternoon." I'm like, "Yes." So I go and get my T3 prescription, and she's like, "Oh, the T3s may back you up." I'm like, "Well, you were telling me the other day the antibiotics are gonna, you know, speed it up." So I'm like, "What is it? We're gonna have a wrestling match. Who wins between the medicine that makes you poops or the medicine that backs you ups?" So it was a rolling a dice each time you went. But anyway, that's a little TMI here. But we'll go back to the dentist. I got my meds, went back in the afternoon. I'm like, I think this freezing's coming down. Can I might need another dose here. And he's a new dentist. He was a colleague of my regular dentist. Seemed pretty cool. Doing his thing. The numbing was setting in, and they rig you all up. And he was doing something. I could hear the tools, and I'm like, "Rah." I felt it, and I was like, "Oh, what was that?" And he's like, "You felt that?" And I'm like, "Yeah." You're mumbling, you got all that shit on you. And he's like, "Oh, this would be a moment that would be good for school because this is a teaching moment showing how all teeth are very different. We tried plan A and B, and sometimes you need a plan C." And in my head, I'm like, "What the fuck's he talking about?" And he's like, "All right, we're gonna have to put the needle directly into the tooth. You're gonna feel this pinch." And I was like, "Oh," and I was just like twisting my hands because I didn't know where to put them. And I'm like, "I'll try to alleviate the pain here," but wow, do not recommend that one. Right in there. I just felt it now just talking about it. But yeah, they did that, and the other ones in after aren't too bad. But yeah, right now it looks like a half-ass soldered joint because they just kind of, I guess they do it in 2 bits, 2 appointments. So they left me part filled here, and my regular dentist is gonna go in a few weeks and finish the job. But man, I'm so grateful for benefits and the ability to get that done. Like, I honestly don't know what to do. It was telling people it's worse than my ACL and the surgery recovery. Like, there's so many nerves. I literally didn't know what to do but pace and like scream randomly or turn the tap on my head by accident, I guess. But wow. But that's the short. It's smoky out there. Stay safe here in Saskatchewan from all the forest fires around. Be safe. Try to stay indoors, not take that shit in too much. September is upon us. Embrace it. Embrace football season. Football! But yeah, thanks for coming out, guys. Episode 26 in the books. Rent City out.